My wife cheated with an NHL hockey star. What would you do if you discovered your wife of 8 years was having an affair with a millionaire NHL superstar? I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am at 3 a.m., unable to sleep, trying to process what my life has become. My name doesn't matter, but for context, I'm a 34-year-old automotive mechanic. I've been married to Sarah, not her real name, for 8 years, together for 11. We have 2 kids, Emma, who's 7, and Jake, who's 5. I thought we had a good marriage. Not perfect, but good. We owned a modest house in the suburbs, I had steady work at a local garage, and Sarah worked part-time as a dental hygienist. About 6 months ago, Sarah started going out more often. Girls' nights, she said. Sometimes twice a week. I didn't think much of it at first. She'd been pretty isolated during the pandemic with the kids, so I was actually happy she was getting out and socializing again. Then things started changing. New clothes appeared in her closet, expensive stuff. Designer purses, jewelry I definitely couldn't afford on my mechanic's salary. When I asked about it, she said her friend Melissa was giving her hand-me-downs because she was cleaning out her closet. Melissa was supposedly dating some rich guy. The red flags started piling up. Sarah became secretive with her phone, taking it everywhere, even to the bathroom. She started working out obsessively, got her hair done professionally every 2 weeks, and began talking about people and places I'd never heard of. Expensive restaurants downtown, exclusive clubs, events I knew we couldn't afford to attend. But the final straw came last Thursday. I was at work under a Chevy Suburban, replacing the transmission, when my phone started buzzing with notifications. Someone had tagged me in a bunch of social media posts. I ignored it at first. I'm not really active on social media, but my coworker Mike came over looking shocked. "Dude," he said, showing me his phone. "Isn't this your wife?" On his screen was a picture that made my blood run cold. Sarah, my wife, the mother of my children, was at some upscale restaurant, sitting very close to Marcus Rivera. Yes, the Marcus Rivera, star player for our city's NHL team. They weren't just sitting together. His arm was around her waist, and she was leaning into him like they were a couple. But it got worse. The comments on the post were brutal. People were talking about how they'd seen them together before. How they'd been spotted at various events around the city. Someone even mentioned seeing them at a hotel. I felt like I was going to throw up right there in the garage bay. I left work early, telling my boss I was sick, which wasn't exactly a lie. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. How long had this been going on? Was this why she'd been so different lately? When I got home, Sarah wasn't there. The babysitter said she'd gone out for a work event and wouldn't be back until late. I knew that was bullshit now. I spent the evening with my kids, trying to act normal while my world was falling apart. Emma kept asking why I was sad, and I had to keep telling her Daddy just didn't feel well. Sarah came home around midnight, reeking of expensive perfume and alcohol. She was glowing, happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. It made me sick. I confronted her the next morning after the kids left for school. "I know about Marcus Rivera," I said, showing her the pictures on my phone. The color drained from her face, but then something I didn't expect happened. Instead of denying it or apologizing, she got angry. "How dare you spy on me?" she screamed. "Can't I have any privacy in this marriage?" Privacy? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You're having an affair with a professional hockey player, and you're mad at me?" What she said next will haunt me forever. "You know what, David? Yes, I'm seeing Marcus. And I'm not sorry. Do you know what it's like being married to someone with no ambition? Someone who's content fixing cars for the rest of his life while other people live incredible lives. Marcus treats me like a queen. He takes me places you could never afford, buys me things you could never buy, makes me feel alive in ways you never could." I was stunned into silence. She continued, "I've been dying in this suburban prison, raising kids with a man who thinks Red Lobster is fine dining. Marcus has shown me what life could be like. What I deserve. What about our children?" I managed to ask. "The children will be fine. Better than fine, actually. Marcus is already talking about us moving in together. Do you know what kind of life Emma and Jake could have? Private schools, travel, opportunities you could never give them. I couldn't speak. This woman, who I'd loved for 11 years, who I'd built a life with, was talking about our family like we were holding her back from her true destiny. So what are you saying? I finally asked. I'm saying I want a divorce. I'm filing papers next week. Marcus is getting me the best lawyer in the city. And just like that, my marriage was over. Reddit, I'm lost. I don't know what to do. I keep thinking this is all a nightmare and I'll wake up, but it's been 3 days now, and it's all too real. My kids don't know yet. How do I explain to a 7-year-old and 5-year-old that mommy is leaving us for a hockey player they've seen on TV? I can't afford a lawyer like hers. I make decent money as a mechanic, but nothing compared to NHL salary money. I'm terrified I'm going to lose my kids. Has anyone been through something like this? How do I even begin to fight this? TLDR, wife is leaving me and our 2 young children for an NHL star player. Says I have no ambition and she deserves better. I'm lost and don't know how to protect my kids or myself in the divorce. Now, before we dive into the updates, and trust me, there are some wild updates, let's talk about how Reddit responded to this poor guy's situation. The post absolutely exploded. Over 15,000 upvotes, 8,000 comments, and it was pinned to the top of our /relationship_advice for 3 days straight. The community was overwhelmingly supportive of our mechanic, which honestly restored a little faith in humanity. Top comment came from user lawyerllama_SQ, document everything. Screenshot those social media posts before they get deleted. Get a good family lawyer immediately, many offer payment plans. Your wife is living in a fantasy if she thinks she's going to get primary custody while openly flaunting an affair. Also, hate to break it to her, but she's probably just one of many side pieces to this hockey player. This isn't going to end how she thinks it will. Another highly upvoted comment from user DivorceDad2019, brother, I've been where you are. My ex left me for her personal trainer. Thought she was going to live this glamorous Instagram life. 2 years later, she was begging to come back. Don't let her back. Focus on your kids and document everything. Also, get an STD test. But perhaps the most prescient comment came from user HockeyFan4Life. I follow the NHL pretty closely, and Marcus Rivera has a reputation. This isn't his first married woman, and it won't be his last. He's known for this kind of thing. Your wife is in for a rude awakening. Oh, HockeyFan4Life, if only you knew how right you were going to be. Update 1, the legal battle begins. Posted 2 weeks later. Update, the divorce papers were served, and I got a lawyer. First, thank you to everyone who commented and messaged me. The support has been incredible, and several of you gave me advice that probably saved my life and my relationship with my kids. I took everyone's advice and immediately started documenting everything. Screenshots of the social media posts, which, surprise surprise, got deleted within 24 hours, bank statements showing unusual spending, text messages, everything. I also swallowed my pride and called my brother Tom, who's a successful contractor. I hadn't talked to him much in recent years because, honestly, I was embarrassed about our different financial situations. But when I told him what was happening, he immediately offered to help pay for a good lawyer. Family takes care of family, he said, and I almost cried right there on the phone. The lawyer he connected me with, Jennifer Martinez, is absolutely incredible. She took one look at my documentation and smiled, not in a happy way, but in a your wife just made some very expensive mistakes way. Your wife's affair is well documented and public, she told me. In our state, that matters significantly for custody and asset division. But more importantly, her statements about wanting to move your children in with her affair partner are going to be very problematic for her in court. She also told me something that made me feel a bit better. Your wife seems to think that because she's dating someone wealthy, she's going to get everything she wants in this divorce. But family courts don't care how much money your affair partner has. They care about stability, moral character, and what's best for the children. Meanwhile, Sarah has been, Well, Sarah has been living like she's already divorced and remarried to a millionaire. She moved out last week and into what I can only assume is Marcus's place, some luxury downtown condo. The kids stay with me during the week, and she gets them on weekends, which was her choice. She said weekdays were too complicated with her new lifestyle. Let me tell you what she means by complicated. She's apparently attending every NHL social event, traveling with the team for away games, and generally acting like a hockey wife. The problem? She's not a hockey wife. She's still married to me, and she has 2 young children who need their mother. Emma asked me last weekend why Mommy's house doesn't have any of her pictures in it. I didn't know what to say. But here's where it gets interesting. My lawyer has been doing some digging on Marcus Rivera, and let's just say the picture that's emerging isn't great for Sarah's fantasy future. Apparently, Marcus has been through this exact scenario twice before. Both times with married women, both times ending badly for the women involved. One case even went to court because the woman's ex-husband sued Marcus for alienation of affection. He settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. Your wife's boyfriend has a pattern, Jennifer told me. And that pattern doesn't typically end in marriage and happily ever after. I'm trying not to feel too vindicated by this information, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me feel a little better. The kids are struggling. Jake keeps asking when Mommy is coming home, and Emma has started acting out at school. I've got them both in counseling, which is another expense I can't really afford, but my brother is helping with that too. Sarah, meanwhile, seems completely oblivious to the damage she's causing. When I tried to talk to her about the kids' behavior, she said they'll adjust. This is better for everyone in the long run. I don't think I've ever wanted to shake someone more in my entire life. Next week, we have our first official court date for temporary custody and support arrangements. Jennifer says she's optimistic, especially given Sarah's recent behavior and priorities. I'll keep you all updated. And seriously, thank you again for all the support. It's been the only thing keeping me sane. Update 2, the first court hearing. Posted 1 month later. Update 2, court didn't go how Sarah expected. Holy shit, Reddit. I can't even believe what happened in court yesterday. So we had our hearing for temporary custody and support arrangements. Sarah showed up looking like she was going to a red carpet event, designer dress, professional hair and makeup, jewelry that probably cost more than my car. She was clearly trying to project this image of success and sophistication. I showed up in my best and only suit, which I bought for our wedding 8 years ago and had to have altered because I've lost about 15 pounds from stress. Sarah's lawyer, who, by the way, charges $800 an hour according to Jennifer, started by painting this picture of Sarah as a loving mother who was simply seeking happiness and trying to provide a better life for her children. They emphasized Marcus's financial resources and how the children would benefit from his lifestyle and connections. I thought I was going to lose everything right there. But then Jennifer stood up, and I understood why my brother recommended her. She calmly presented the evidence, the social media posts, documentation of Sarah's absence from the children's daily lives, records showing that Sarah had missed multiple school events and parent-teacher conferences since starting her affair, and testimony from the children's counselor about their recent emotional distress. But the real bombshell came when Jennifer presented phone records showing that Sarah had been in contact with Marcus for over 8 months, meaning the affair had been going on much longer than even I realized, and that her entire story about recent unhappiness was bullshit. The judge, an older woman who reminded me of my elementary school principal, was not impressed with Sarah's presentation or arguments. Ms. Thompson, she said to Sarah, "You're asking this court to consider the best interests of these children while you've been absent from their daily lives for months, engaged in an extramarital affair, and planning to move them in with a man they barely know. Can you explain how this serves their best interests?" Sarah's lawyer objected, but the judge wasn't having it. Furthermore, the judge continued, "Your own statements, as documented by your husband, indicate that you view your current marriage and family situation as a suburban prison and that you believe your children will be better off with your affair partner's resources. This suggests that your primary motivation is financial rather than focused on the children's emotional and developmental needs." Sarah looked like she'd been slapped. The temporary ruling was better than I could have hoped for. I retain primary custody during the week. Sarah gets alternating weekends, but only if she stays in town, no traveling with Marcus for games. Sarah has to pay me temporary spousal support because of her abandonment of family responsibilities. Any overnight visits with the children cannot include Marcus Rivera until their relationship is stable for at least 6 consecutive months, and he's been vetted through the court system. Sarah is required to attend co-parenting counseling. That last point made Sarah visibly angry in court, which didn't help her case. But here's the best part. After court, Jennifer pulled me aside and told me that Marcus Rivera's legal team had reached out to her office. The big news is that while we were in mediation, Marcus Rivera was in Los Angeles, getting engaged to the 24-year-old Instagram influencer I mentioned before. TMZ broke the story with photos of the proposal at some fancy Beverly Hills restaurant. The article specifically mentioned that Marcus had recently ended a relationship with a married woman from his home city and was ready to settle down with someone who shares his values and lifestyle. Sarah found out about the engagement the same way the rest of US did from social media. I know this because she called me that evening, completely hysterical. "He's engaged, David. He's fucking engaged. After everything I gave up for him." "Sarah," I said, "what exactly did you give up for him that you can't get back?" Wrong thing to say, apparently. She started screaming about how I never understood her, how I was small-minded and bitter, how Marcus had promised her a different life, and how this was all somehow my fault for forcing him to choose by taking her to court. The delusion was breathtaking. But here's where it gets really interesting. Apparently, Marcus hadn't just been paying for Sarah's downtown condo, he'd been paying for everything. Her car lease, her credit cards, her expensive lifestyle, all of it. And when he got engaged to Instagram girl, he cut Sarah off completely. Sarah got evicted from the condo 3 days later. She called me in a panic, asking if she could temporarily move back into the house. I told her absolutely not. "Where am I supposed to go, David? I have nowhere to live." "Sarah," I said, "you're a 32-year-old woman with a job and family who would probably help you if you hadn't burned every bridge in your life for a hockey player. Figure it out." She ended up moving in with her sister, who apparently gave her an earful about throwing away her family. But wait, it gets worse for Sarah. Remember her high-powered, $800 an hour lawyer? Turns out Marcus had been paying those fees too. When he cut Sarah off, her lawyer immediately withdrew from the case for non-payment of fees. Sarah tried to get a public defender, but since this is a civil matter, not criminal, she doesn't qualify. She tried to represent herself in our next court hearing. It was a massacre. Sarah showed up looking like she hadn't slept in days, with a stack of papers she clearly printed from some divorce law website. She kept trying to argue that she deserved half of everything because that's how divorce works and that I was being unfair by not supporting her financially. The judge, the same woman from our first hearing, was not sympathetic. "Ms. Thompson, you abandoned your family for another man, spent months prioritizing that relationship over your children's well-being, and are now asking your husband to financially support the lifestyle choices that led to the breakdown of your marriage. The court finds this position to be without merit. Final divorce decree. I get primary custody of Emma and Jake. Sarah gets supervised visitation every other weekend until she can demonstrate housing stability. No alimony for Sarah. Sarah is responsible for her own legal fees. I keep the house, the cars, and our joint savings, which wasn't much, but still. Sarah is required to continue co-parenting counseling at her own expense. Sarah broke down completely in court. I'm talking full sobbing, to the point where the bailiff had to escort her out. I should feel vindicated, but honestly, I just feel tired and sad. Not for Sarah, she made her choices, but for my kids, who are watching their mother fall apart. The kids are doing much better though. Emma has started talking about wanting to join soccer, and Jake is sleeping through the night again. They barely ask about Sarah anymore, which is heartbreaking but also probably healthy. Sarah has been calling and texting constantly, alternating between apologetic and angry. One minute she's saying she made a mistake and wants to work things out, no chance in hell. and the next she's blaming me for ruining her life and saying she hopes I'm happy that I destroyed her dreams. I blocked her number except for a co-parenting app that our lawyer set up. Oh, and remember her friend Melissa, who was supposedly giving her all those expensive clothes. Turns out Melissa was also having an affair, also with a professional athlete, and also got completely cut off when her affair partner moved on. They're apparently both living with Sarah's sister now, two grown women who blew up their families for men who never had any intention of actually being with them long term. The whole thing would be funny if it weren't so pathetic. I've started dating again, nothing serious, just coffee dates and getting to know people. It feels weird after 11 years with the same person, but also kind of exciting. Jennifer introduced me to a friend of hers, a teacher who's also divorced with kids. We've been on 3 dates, and she's actually coming to Emma's soccer game this weekend. Life is getting better. Different, but better. I'll probably do one final update in a few months when things have settled completely, but for now, I'm just focused on moving forward with my kids and building something stable and healthy for us. To everyone who supported me through this insanity, thank you. I literally couldn't have gotten through this without the advice and encouragement from this community. Update 5, the final chapter. Posted 6 months later. Final update, life after the wreckage. Hey Reddit. I said I'd do one final update, and I think enough time has passed to give you all some closure on this saga. It's been 6 months since the divorce was finalized, and life has settled into something I never expected but am genuinely grateful for. First, the kids, Emma and Jake, are thriving. Emma did join soccer and is apparently pretty good at it. Jake started kindergarten and loves it. They both still see their counselor once a month, but more for maintenance than crisis management now. They've stopped asking when mommy is coming home and have started referring to our house as just home. Sarah has been on a journey, let's call it. After the divorce, she spent about 2 months in what I can only describe as a complete breakdown. She was living with her sister, unemployed. She quit her dental hygienist job when she thought she was moving in with Marcus, and apparently drinking heavily. Her supervised visits with the kids were disasters. She would show up late, sometimes clearly hungover, and spend the entire visit on her phone or crying. After about 6 weeks, Emma asked me if she had to keep seeing mommy because it made her sad. That conversation broke my heart. I ended up going back to court to modify the visitation arrangement. The judge suspended Sarah's visits temporarily and ordered her into counseling and a substance abuse program. But here's the thing, and I genuinely didn't expect this: Sarah actually got help. About 3 months ago, she checked herself into an inpatient treatment program. Not just for drinking, but for what her counselor called lifestyle addiction and narcissistic tendencies. I had no idea those were even things you could get treatment for. She spent 60 days in the program and came out different. Not perfect, not magically healed, but different. The first conversation we had after she got out was probably the first honest conversation we'd had in years. "David," she said, "I need to apologize to you and the kids, and I need to do it without expecting anything in return." She told me that the counseling had helped her understand that she'd been chasing external validation her entire adult life, and that the affair with Marcus wasn't really about him, it was about feeling important and special and chosen. "I convinced myself that I deserved this glamorous life," she said, "but what I really wanted was to feel like I mattered. And when Marcus made me feel that way, I was willing to throw away everything real for something that was never real at all." It was the most self-aware thing I'd ever heard her say. She's been sober for 4 months now, got her job back at the dental office, and is living in a modest apartment across town. She's been consistently showing up for her scheduled visits with the kids and actually engaging with them instead of treating them like accessories to her life. Don't get me wrong, I'm not taking her back, and I don't trust her completely yet. But for the sake of Emma and Jake, I'm cautiously optimistic that they might actually have a functional mother again someday. As for Marcus Rivera, he's been having his own karma moment. His engagement to Instagram girl lasted exactly 4 months before she dumped him for a quarterback. The hockey forums I occasionally check, yes, I still lurk there sometimes, say he's already moved on to wife number 3 or 4 in his rotation of married women. The man is apparently incapable of learning. Now for the good news. Remember Jennifer's friend, the teacher I mentioned? Her name is Lisa, and we've been dating for about 4 months now. She's incredible, Reddit. Patient, kind, funny, and amazing with my kids. Emma adores her, and Jake has started calling her Miss Lisa and asking when she's coming over. Last weekend, Lisa brought her daughter, she's 8, over for a playdate, and watching all 3 kids playing together in the backyard, I had this moment of thinking, this is what a real family looks like. Not the Instagram perfect fantasy Sarah was chasing, but actual people who care about each other and show up for each other. Lisa and I aren't rushing into anything. We're both cautious after difficult divorces, but for the first time in over a year, I'm excited about the future instead of just surviving day to day. I've also been working on myself. I started going to therapy too, mostly to make sure I don't carry baggage from this experience into future relationships. My therapist helped me understand that while Sarah's choices were entirely her own, I had gotten complacent in our marriage and stopped really seeing her as a person with her own dreams and needs. That doesn't excuse anything she did, but it's helped me understand how we got to a place where she felt she had to look outside our marriage for validation and excitement. I'm determined to never let that happen again, with anyone. Oh, and I got promoted at work. My boss said that watching me handle the divorce situation with dignity, while never missing work or letting it affect my job performance, showed him the kind of person I am. I'm now the shop supervisor, with a nice raise that's made life a lot more comfortable for me and the kids. So that's where we are, Reddit. A year ago, I thought my life was over. My wife had left me for a famous athlete. I was facing a potentially devastating divorce, and I was terrified I was going to lose my children. Today, I have primary custody of happy, healthy kids, a job I enjoy with people who respect me, a wonderful woman in my life who actually appreciates the man I am instead of resenting me for who I'm not, and genuine hope for the future. Sarah is working on becoming a better person and, hopefully, a better mother. I actually hope she succeeds, for Emma and Jake's sake. And Marcus Rivera is still Marcus Rivera, which is probably punishment enough. The biggest lesson I learned from all this is that real life, the daily stuff, the ordinary moments, the people who show up consistently, that's actually where happiness lies. Not in some fantasy of wealth and glamour and excitement, but in genuine connections with people who choose you every day. I'm choosing that real life, and it's choosing me back. Thanks for following this journey with me, Reddit. You all quite literally saved my life and helped me save my kids' lives too. I'll always be grateful for that. Take care of yourselves, and remember, sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. Peace out, Reddit. You're the best. And there you have it, folks. One of the most incredible comeback stories I've ever had the privilege to share with you. What started as a devastating betrayal, a wife leaving her husband and children for an NHL superstar, became a masterclass in integrity, resilience, and the power of putting your children first. David could have gone scorched earth. He could have sold his story to tabloids, could have tried to destroy Sarah publicly, could have used his children as weapons in the divorce. Instead, he took the high road, focused on being the best father he could be, and trusted that doing the right thing would eventually lead to the right outcome. And it did. Today, David has primary custody of his children, a promotion at work, a wonderful new relationship with someone who appreciates him for exactly who he is, and the respect of everyone who watched him navigate the worst year of his life with grace and dignity. Sarah got the help she needed, is working to rebuild her relationship with her children, and learn some hard but necessary lessons about the difference between fantasy and reality. The kids are thriving with a stable, loving father and a potential stepmother who genuinely cares about their well-being. And Marcus Rivera? Well, Marcus Rivera is still Marcus Rivera, which, as David said, is probably punishment enough. The real lesson here isn't about infidelity or celebrity culture or social media drama. It's about the power of choosing substance over flash, commitment over excitement, and love over ego. David's story reminds us that sometimes the most ordinary life, the one with the steady job, the suburban house, the simple pleasures, is actually the most extraordinary life of all, because it's built on real connections, real love, and real commitment. In a world that constantly tells us we need more, deserve better, should reach higher, David's story is a beautiful reminder that sometimes the greatest happiness comes from appreciating what we already have and being the kind of person others can count on. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button, subscribe for more Reddit drama breakdowns, and let me know in the comments what story you'd like me to cover next. And remember, whether you're a mechanic or a CEO, whether you live in a mansion or a modest house, whether you're famous or completely unknown, your worth isn't determined by your bank account or your social status. It's determined by how you treat the people who depend on you, how you handle adversity, and whether you choose to build up or tear down. Be like David. Choose the real thing. I'll see you in the next video.